Thank you for joining us tonight. You're now with me, Shosha Minato for TVS Nightline. We begin with the headlines tonight. We start the news with the latest development on the Pulau Satang tragedy that is believed to have claimed the life of the first mate, Awang Omar Awang Hamsawi. Individuals believed to be family members of the deceased waited in sorrow as the body arrived and brought ashore. The body found afloat by a fishing vessel at around 4:30 p.m. at an area known as Tukun Kap Jepun, 6 nautical miles from Pulau Satang Besar. The body was fished out by rescuers and arrived at the Telaga Air Jetty at around 6:21 p.m.
I harap kebahagiaan rumah tangga kita akan kekal sampai bila-bila. Biarlah Ani berkorban cinta. Selamat tinggal Abang Rami.
Mulai hari ini, panggil aku Piramli.
Saya Saloma.
Saya Mariani.
Saya Piramli.
Jangan lupa saksikan kami dalam teater musikal
Irama dan lagu
Kisah Aku dan Dia.
secara langsung
pada hari Ahad 10 Oktober
Jam 8.45 malam.
hanya di TVS saluran 122 Astro dan My TV.
Jumpa Anda di sana.
As long as I live, I will do the best I can in advocating in animal welfare. They also need our love. We need to become empathetic, and this will indirectly change our perspective about life, understanding the struggles and suffering of other creatures.
Saya harap orang ramai akan lebih tahu save our strays dan akan spread more awareness tentang animal welfare di whole of Malaysia.
欢迎来到家有大厨，我是 Christy，
我是 Bryce，
跟我们一起与不同的厨师学习如何烹饪多元种族的美味健康佳肴。
从菜巴萨到餐桌前，在这一集中，我们将与厨师 Sam 一起烹饪美味佳肴，
千万别错过哟！
Ting as a supermarket has lasted for 75 years. Before we took over and turned it into an art gallery and art experimentation, not simply the experimentation toward architecture, but also the experimentation toward, let's say, filmmaking, let's say documentation, let's say theater. So with the buildings, we realize since it is at the heart of the city, it should be used to manifest something bigger than just a building.
Welcome back, and we apologize for the technical issue earlier. Now on to the next update. The Sarawak government remains committed at ensuring the well-being of its citizens, especially the elderly, is being taken care of. Now, Chief Minister Datuk Patigi Abang Johari Tunapeng said this as the state enters an aging population by 2030.
Abang Johari said more assistance will be given to the group as the population of over 60 in the state is expected to increase by 15 to 20% in the next decade.
Kita sekarang mengkaji the best instrument where we can give welfare assistance to the growing number of our population. Karena kalau umur 70 mungkin dah tak ada kerja lagi. Umur 80 mungkin EPF dah habis. Jadi we have to face this reality and we have to have certain instrument where we can give assistance, including financial assistance to this target group.
Earlier, the Chief Minister officiated the 10th anniversary of Sarawak Ministry of Welfare, Community Wellbeing, Women, Family and Childhood Development, KWKPK.
The Election Commission (EC) encourages Sarawakians and Sabahans residing in Peninsular Malaysia to apply for a change of their voting constituency based on their address. Now, Deputy Minister in the Prime Minister's Department of Parliament and Law, Datuk Mas Ermayati Samsudin said this was to facilitate voting for a general or by-election.
Perkara 119 Perlembagaan Persekutuan menetapkan salah satu kelayakan untuk didaftarkan sebagai pemilih ialah bermastawati di mana-mana bahagian pilihan raya. Bagi maksud tersebut, SPR menentukan bahagian pilihan raya seseorang pemilih berdasarkan kepada alamat pemastawatian pemilih seperti di dalam kad pengenalan.
The statement was made after being questioned regarding the actions taken by the government to enfranchise abroad voters or East Malaysian voters in Peninsular Malaysia. The minister also said that currently only voters in certain categories were allowed to. Among them are EC staff, election officials, military, police and General Operations Force GOF personnel who are on duty during early voting, media practitioners who are covering the election outside the constituency on polling day, and Malaysians abroad. Meanwhile, Mas Ermayati stated that no Malaysian, including those living overseas, was excluded from being enrolled as a voter under the automatic voter registration system. Hundreds thronged the bus station in Miri to travel back to their hometown throughout Sarawak, following the lifting of the inter-district travel effective today. Now, based on a survey conducted by TVS, many expressed relief that travelling now is no longer a hassle.
Kita senang nak buat kerja, pergi contohlah pergi Bintulu, lepas tu pergi mana-mana lah, jadi senang lah. Saya sebenarnya asal daripada Sabah, tapi saya duduk bermastawati dekat Miri ini sebab saya kerja kapal lah, kerja bidang offshore oil and gas. Tu dari Miri ni mau pergi Bintulu, turun sebab company suruh turun kat Bintulu. Itulah yang dulunya susah mau ambil sebabkan regulation dia terlalu banyak. Sekarang ni dah company call ready apa semua terus go. Tak banyak lagi itulah yang kita banyak bersyukurlah government dapat ambil perhatian bagi kami yang pekerja macam ni lah.
People were seen complying with the SOP. Meanwhile, for some foreigners, the relaxation allows them to travel to Kuching for their passport renewal.
Perasaan saya sangat amatlah gembira lah sebab sekarang kita boleh lintas negeri tanpa surat dari balai polis lah. Tapi kita mesti ikut SOP lah. Saya dari Miri pergi Kuching nak renew pasport. Sebab saya warga Indonesia, jadi kena nanti bulan 12 sudah habis masa tempoh pasport lah. Habis itu saya pergi KJRI Kuching untuk renew pasport lah macam itu.
The Royal Malaysian Air Force RMAF will improve and tighten its standard operating procedure SOP of managing and handling weapons following the incident of 4 RMAF personnel being killed in a shooting incident at their camp in Kota Samarahan, Kuching, Sarawak last August 13. Now, Deputy Defence Minister Datuk Seri Iqmal Hisham Abdul Aziz said this was among the elements being studied and investigated by the inquiry board to prevent reoccurrence of such incident. He regarded the incident as an isolated case because during training in the managing and handling of weapons, these weapons could not be arbitrarily taken out or used.
Untuk makluman yang berhormat, insiden tembakan yang disebutkan tadi masih dalam siasatan polis diraja Malaysia bagi mengenal pasti sekiranya wujud elemen jenayah dan mengesahkan punca sebenar insiden.
Iqmal Hisham told Dewan Rakyat that the ministry also provided psychological and counselling services for all RMAF personnel in line with its need to tackle the mental health issue which could affect their state or preparedness.
Insiden tembakan yang telah berlaku melibatkan anggota TUDM di Kota Samarahan sememangnya memberi kesan trauma kepada anggota di pasukan tersebut. Tindakan susulan TVM dengan menghantar tim kaunseling dan psikologi sejurus insiden itu berlaku sangat membantu anggota dan keluarga mangsa yang terlibat.
The legislative amendments to the federal constitution are crucial as they would provide clarity to the position of Sabah and Sarawak and reinstate the rights of the people in Sabah and Sarawak as per the agreement during the formation of the Malaysian Federation. The amendment would be in line with the relevant provisions of the Malaysia Agreement 1963, is expected to be tabled in Parliament by end of this month.
On Saturday, Wan Junaidi said the government, with assistance from the Attorney General's Chambers AGC, would be looking at amending several critical legal provisions in MA 63. Based on the estimated timeline, the first reading of the bill could take place on October 26, followed by the second reading on October 28.
Polis tidak akan berfiksin items kerana bak kandang menua pusing korban tinggal yang mahu merestan. Terutama di kawasan Ujing Ina的到来 mudah kecaranya Indonesia and Malaysia. 现在其实我们可以看
meskipun reda dengan Assalamualaikum dan salam sejahtera.
Warnailah hidupmu, tampilkanlah bakat baru. Sarawak pasti maju, menginspirasi duniamu.
Datuk Tom Abang Saufi merupakan figura fashion terkenal tanah air. Siapa tahu, kini telah menjadi kenyataan dan telah menempah nama menjadi seorang figura fashion yang disegani dan telah banyak menyumbang kepada negara dalam memartabatkan industri fashion Malaysia hingga di mata dunia. From Sarawak with love.
Untuk segmen Nang Nyaman, kita akan ke Coffee Zone. Raun lok ke premis penginapan di Akasha. Singgahlah dekat Big Boss Burgers, burger patty yang dipolah oleh Encik Fadilah dan Puan Ana Tok. Nang Nyaman 2 kali Yusuf Madah dan Bisotok. Bersama kami Yusuf dalam rancangan Keringat Usahawan.
Welcome back to the Nightline with the COVID-19 development. The country COVID-19 daily cases in Malaysia remained below the 10,000 mark, but represents an increase with 9,380 new cases today. Sarawak recorded the highest at 1,503, followed by Kelantan with 1,170 and Selangor with 1,116. Today's figures bring the total cumulative cases to 2,303,837. Sarawak COVID-19 fatalities logged another 22 deaths today, which occurred between June 12 and October 5. It is reported by the Sarawak State Disaster Management Committee that out of the new fatalities recorded, 7 were brought in deadbeat cases. The state's death toll now stands at 942. No new cluster has emerged. However, one cluster has ended, dubbed the Lemujang cluster at Pakan. No cases reported there in the past 28 days. There are now 93 active clusters in the state, with 6 of them recording 23 new COVID-19 infections. Meanwhile, Kuching district remains top districts with high infection at 427 new cases, followed by Miri with 203 and Bau with 159. With the total cases reported in Sarawak today, the cumulative number of infections now stands at 219,629. If you plan to set back to your respective hometown, or as we say here, BALIK Kampung, travellers are advised to conduct a COVID-19 self-test before making the interstate travel. In fact, if we are living in high contact and mobility settings, we are encouraged by the Health Ministry to take regular COVID-19 testings. Health Minister Khairi Jamaluddin in a tweet said, "This is much now depends on individual responsibility and behaviour." He said there is only 1.6% left before Malaysia hits the 90% threshold for the government to open interstate level. Based on the COVID portal, a total of 20,698,852, or 88.4% of the adult population in the country, have completed their COVID-19 vaccination as of yesterday. On September 22, Prime Minister Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob said that interstate activity will be allowed when 90% of adults in Malaysia were vaccinated against COVID-19. On the other hand, the Malacca state election needs to be held in compliance with strict standard operating procedures SOPs and follow different handling process to prevent the spread of COVID-19. As some residents in Malacca fear that the upcoming state election will trigger a surge in COVID-19 cases, thus affecting social and economic activities in the state, which is currently in phase 3 of the National Recovery Plan. The measures were taken into account after the increasing situation of COVID-19 cases that occurred after the Sabah state election held in September last year. Malaysian Public Health Physicians Association President Dr. Zainal Arifin Omar said an election risk management plan should also be put in place for prevention of COVID-19. Dr. Zainal also added that the Malacca polls could also be used as a test lab to see the effectiveness of the country's vaccination program. Although the nation's vaccination rate against COVID-19 is fast approaching the 90% milestone, the risk of infection is still there. Previously, the association had discussed and submitted the proposed SOP for elections to the Election Commission EC. Among the SOPs are reducing face-to-face campaigns and mass gatherings, expanding the use of social media, as well as shortening campaigning time and allowing only those who are fully vaccinated to campaign and vote. Currently, the vaccination rate of the adult population in Malacca, which is under phase 3 of the National Recovery Plan, is at 88.5%. Meanwhile, political stability is very important for the country's development, and its bid in addressing COVID-19 could be strengthened. As such, the federal government cooperation pact with the opposition Pakatan Harapan PH has had a positive impact on investments in the country.
Dan setakat ini alhamdulillah nampaknya ada kesan agak baik walaupun tidak sempurna. Jadi kestabilan politik adalah penting untuk kemakmuran negara, untuk membolehkan kita beri fokus kepada usaha-usaha menangani COVID-19 dan juga untuk memantapkan lagi pertumbuhan ekonomi negara, memulihkan ekonomi negara yang murlum tahun lepas. Ini termasuklah pelaburan. Kalau tidak ada kestabilan politik, sudah pasti pelaburan juga akan terjejas.
MUSTAPA hopes that the MOU will give a positive outcome for the people, and eventually the people will benefit and continue to boost the economy in 2022 and beyond, especially under the 12th Malaysia Plan. On the progress of the MOU, which was alleged to be slow, especially the effort to transform Parliament, MUSTAPA asked for the government to be given a little more time. He said this was to ensure that the noble intention is realised, adding that transparency transparency and sincerity are important in resolving this matter. And now on to the next update. Malaysia collected 63.3 billion ringgit on income tax in the first 7 months of 2021. This comprised 41.8 billion ringgit in income tax from companies and 21.5 billion ringgit in income tax from individuals. Finance Minister Tengku Datuk Seri Zafrul Tengku Abdul Aziz said Malaysia collected 99.6 billion ringgit of income tax in 2020. This comprised 66.5 billion ringgit from companies as well as 33.1 billion ringgit from individuals. Income tax collected from companies in 2020 was higher than the revised estimate of 59.4 billion ringgit in the Fiscal Outlook 2021 report. For 2021, the government anticipates income tax collection from companies to rebound at 64.6 billion ringgit. Meanwhile, individual income tax is expected to amount to 43.4 billion ringgit for the same year. And now on to our next development. Malaysian badminton ace Lee Zijia has been appointed as the brand ambassador of LG Electronics' innovative brand LG Pericare. The company hopes to work closely with Zijia to educate and create awareness among Malaysians on the significance of health and cleanliness with their tankless water purifier, air purifier and newly upgraded wearable air purifier, all with the motto "Lives On, Live Better." As the All England 2021 men's singles winner strives to improve his game in every practice and competition, Zijia stated one of the many things he is focused on is boosting his health by improving the quality of air and water around his house. Meanwhile, LG Electronics Malaysia Managing Director Kim Kyu-tae said they were ecstatic to have the world's number 8 shuttler on board as their brand ambassador. Kim reiterated that LG hopes to remind consumers of the importance of health and hygiene through this partnership with a badminton star. After guiding Malaysia to reach the last 4 in the just concluded Sudirman Cup in Vantaa, Finland, Zijia is set to lead the young national squad to the world's most prestigious badminton competition, the Thomas Cup, slated to be held October 9 to 17.
欢迎来到家有大厨，我是 Christy，
我是 Bryce，
跟我们一起与不同的厨师学习如何烹饪多元种族的美味健康佳肴。
从菜巴萨到餐桌前，在这一集中，我们将与厨师 Sam 一起烹饪美味佳肴，
千万别错过哟！
Dalam minggu finale, kebangkitan Ertuğrul musim pertama.
Bu bedende olduğu sürece
Ertuğrul mengukuhkan pengaruh dan kuasanya di Anatolia.
sancağını Anadolu'da tekrar dalgalandıracağım.
Haimi risau, satu firasat yang kurang menyenangkan akan menjadi kenyataan.
Hayırdır inşallah kızım. Bir rüya gördüm. İyi.
Apakah pengakhiran bagi Puak Kai kali ini? Jangan lupa saksikan finale Kebangkitan Ertuğrul musim pertama Isnin dan Selasa 10.30 malam hanya di TVS saluran 122 Astro dan MyTV.
Ting as a supermarket has lasted for 75 years. Before we took over and turned it into an art gallery and art experimentation, not simply the experimentation toward architecture, but also the experimentation toward, let's say, filmmaking, let's say documentation, let's say theater. So with the buildings, we realized since it is at the heart of the city, it should be used to manifest something bigger than just a building.
Thank you for staying with me. And now on to world affairs. In the latest twist in decades of Russia-US space rivalry, a Russian crew comprising 2 cosmonauts, a movie director and an actress, blasted off for the International Space Station on Tuesday to shoot the first movie in space. The Russian mission is designed to get in first before Hollywood production announced earlier this year by actor Tom Cruise together with NASA and SpaceX.
The 12-day Russian mission follows the launch of the first all-civilian crew aboard a rocket and a capsule developed by SpaceX, which was founded by businessman Elon Musk. The Soyuz MS-19 spacecraft is set to dock at 12:12 Greenwich Mean Time at the station, which orbits Earth at an altitude of around 354 kilometers. The Russian movie titled The Challenge focuses on the story of a doctor who is asked to travel to the space station to save a cosmonaut's life. Cosmonaut crew members are also set to appear in the film. Russia and the United States have competed fiercely to reach various space exploration milestones. Russia launched the first satellite and put the first man and woman in space, but NASA beat it to the moon landing.
Now, what do diamonds, sunglasses, high-end Lululemon sportswear and concrete have to do with climate change? They can all be made using carbon dioxide, CO2, locking up the planet's warming gas. And tech startups behind these transformations are grabbing investor attention.
Some use bacteria, some use proteins, some use chemical processes to speed natural reactions. Most pull apart the carbon and the oxygen in CO2 to create another chemical that is used to make consumers' goods. Companies in the area raised over $800 million so far this year, more than tripling from 2020. On the opposite end of the glamour spectrum, the concrete industry, green, also is good for marketing, which makes technology that injects CO2 into fresh concrete and strengthen it by locking in the carbon. The world needs to capture and store 10 billion tons of CO2 annually by mid-century to slow climate change. It is a scale the companies can only dream of when current carbon capture pilots often are at scales of hundreds and thousands of tons.
Genetic traces in the body of a young woman who died 7,000 years ago furnished the first clue that mixing between early humans in Indonesia and those from faraway Siberia took place much earlier than previously thought.
Theories about early human migration in Asia could be transformed by the research published in the scientific journal Nature in August after analysis of the genetic fingerprint of the woman who was given a ritual burial in an Indonesian cave. Basran Burhan, an archaeologist from the Australia's Griffith University, said there is possibility that the Wallachia region could have been a meeting point of 2 human species between the Denisovans and early Homo sapiens. Burhan, one of the scientists who participated in the research, was referring to the region of Indonesia that includes South Sulawesi, where the body, buried with rocks in its hands and on the pelvis, was found. The Denisovans were a group of ancient humans named after a cave in Siberia, where their remains were first identified in 2010, and scientists understand little about them, even details of their appearance. The DNA from Bes, as the researchers named the young woman in Indonesia, using the term for a newborn baby girl in the regional Bugis language, is one of the few well-preserved specimens found in the tropics. The discovery may also offer insights into the origins of the Papuans and indigenous Australian people who share Denisovan DNA.
And that discovery concludes TVS Nightline for tonight. And as always, thank you for tuning in to your local news tonight. Here with me, Shosha Metro, and I'll see you next time. Have a good morning.